Greetings. This is Sal Sanders. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about evaluating learners and some technology tools. The goals and outcomes, as well as the learning objectives for this lesson, are presented on this slide. I'll give you a few minutes to take a look around, and then we'll move on. In this article by Burke and others, Medication Use Evaluation with a Web Application, the authors describe a web-based application for coordinating medication use evaluation, or MUE, within the Veterans Administration. The article describes a system with useful application that, if fully implemented, could allow risk reduction intervention at a local level for at-risk veterans. And even though this article is a few years old, it has great implications for today's returning veterans. The purpose of this study was to identify an approach to evaluate participants in asthma education programs and determine if special characteristics impact their success. So even though this article is getting to be a bit dated, it gives you a good method for investigating a topic related to respiratory care. So I want to keep it in the mix here. The investigators utilized a survey to collect information, including demographics, practice, and learner characteristics. They utilized a number of tools: a written asthma knowledge assessment, written assessment of educational theory, practice teaching skill score-based encounters with standardized patients, and a checklist of essential teaching functions. And they did this to identify an approach to evaluate patients in asthma education programs and determine if specific characteristics impact their success. The checklist of essential teaching functions utilized in this study was based on the checklist developed by Stetson et al. I think this might be of use to managers and educators for assessment of trainers and educators within respiratory care departments, healthcare, or other organizations. And like the rest of these articles, there is a link to a copy of this article in Module 7. In the article, Development and Evaluation of Tools for Measuring the Quality of Experience, or QOE, in mHealth Applications, Martinez, Perez, and others, their objective was to develop a tool that could be utilized to assess QOE, or quality of experience, of mHealth or mobile health apps, with the goal of improving the quality of the applications. The investigators, Martinez, Perez, and others, conducted a review of mobile health applications. To generally classify them, they consulted psychologists and developed a survey tool to assess quality of experience. And finally, they evaluated the quality of experience tool that was developed using sample applications. And the authors state that the quality of experience instrument can be useful to developers, allowing them to improve quality of their applications prior to release. This is important because we all want good quality applications when we go to download them and utilize them. In the review of applications for classification, they looked for research conducted on apps and databases such as PubMed, Web of Knowledge, which is similar to the Web of Science that's available through OhioLink, as well as other databases, and also reviewed apps available online from Apple and Google. Table 1 of the manuscript reveals the target audience of the applications: healthcare professionals or patients, as well as the type of application, and finally the name of the applications reviewed in the study. Quizzes and tests are useful to assess learners' knowledge. Surveys are useful to assess learners' perceptions and collect information. And in many cases, surveys might be given with the option of remaining anonymous, or at least to have your identity masked, which is useful when collecting information for research projects. These tools allow for quick and inexpensive access for assessment and information gathering, especially when utilizing online tools. They can be graded instantly, feedback can be provided instantly. Earlier in the course, you participated in an online course orientation and syllabus quiz, which not only provided me with an assessment of your knowledge, but provided you with feedback and allowed you to take the quiz multiple times until you mastered the information. It's important to decide what information you need when you're planning and developing quizzes, tests, and surveys. This applies to both quizzes and surveys. Once you know what you need, keep the survey and test items limited to the information that you actually need. Avoid the temptation to just keep creating items because it might be cool to know that, or it might be cool to assess that. For tests and quizzes, you might want to develop an exam or quiz matrix to ensure that you're testing what matters. List the topic areas or actual objectives that you want to assess, and then specify the items that will be utilized to assess them. In using online tests, you can have a database set up with a number of items that might assess each of the objectives. You can then set up the test to randomly select 1 or 2 or 3 possible items to assess that particular objective. It's important to keep in mind that each item should be linked to an objective that is worth evaluating. We talked about this once already, but this will be just a slight review of formative and summative evaluation. Formative evaluations are used to provide information at a point where it's useful to allow for improvement. Formative evaluations might include quizzes, self-assessment examinations, for example, and then summative evaluations, which are used to provide an assessment of what was learned or the final performance, not focused on improvement. And an example of these might be the final examination of a course, or as you've experienced, the credentialing examinations administered by many healthcare professions, such as the National Board for Respiratory Care. These are provided to assess if the candidate meets standards to earn credentials, although one may learn from the tests and may be able to improve their future performance based on what they learned taking the exams. That's not the primary purpose of the test. The primary purpose is to see if you've learned enough throughout your course of study and your experience to become a qualified credentialed practitioner. Some other resources you can avail yourself of. Quintessential Instructional Archive, or QIA, offers online tools for many subjects and grades, including quiz and survey tools. So you can check that out. I believe they probably still offer a free 30-day trial, and the cost is fairly nominal if you decide you like it, at about $50 or so a year. A little bit about approval and privacy considerations. You need to respect participants' privacy and keep the results confidential. In many cases, you're going to need institutional research board approval before you can conduct surveys or testing, especially in a healthcare environment. So you'll need to get approval from the Institutional Review Board, or IRB, before you can conduct that research. Wherever you work, make sure that you get approval from those who have the authority to approve such projects before you conduct the survey, before you do the testing. And remember that student grades and performance in courses and programs is confidential information. Some course management systems, Blackboard, Moodle, and there are others, offer tools that allow you to conduct exams, quizzes for assessments, surveys. There are a number of online survey tools, including SurveyMonkey, free online surveys, and there are many others. On the free versions of some of these tools, they do limit you to the number of participants, or in some cases the number of surveys you can create. So you'll have to check them out doing a shorter project, and then if you like them, many of them offer service for a fairly nominal fee. a rubric, a matrix. These allow learners to gain an understanding of how an assignment will be assessed. And this is very useful as learners often rise to the level of expectation. So rubrics also help to eliminate the need for the learn the professor game, where learners have to not only learn the course material and subject matter, but become knowledgeable about what it is that the professor is looking for, or what it is the professor is going to want to evaluate. So rubrics put it out front and say, here's what's going to be measured, here's what's going to be assessed, these are the points that are going to be assigned if you perform at these various levels. So you'll note that many of the key assignments in this course, including discussions and many of the larger assignments, will have a rubric attached so that you can take a look, review the rubric, see how it's going to be graded before you submit the assignment. This gives you an upfront view of how things are going to be assessed, and it also sets some expectation that this is what the instructor believes is important about this assignment. The things with the most points are things that are going to be most important, so that you can kind of structure your creations, your responses to maximize your score, which also should correlate with maximizing your learning if the rubrics are set up appropriately. So rubrics help to make learners aware of what the instructor feels is important, as well as how it will be evaluated. This is an image of a rubric that was developed using the rubric tool in Blackboard. It allowed me to enter the components to be evaluated in the rows. These include formatting and composition, addresses the topic being discussed, and contribution to colleagues, and the ratings and their associated scoring values in the columns, novice, competent, and proficient. You'll note that each cell contains the evaluation criteria. It is possible for learners to determine what is necessary to achieve any performance rating and associated score. For example, to be rated as proficient in formatting and composition, the post reflects clear thought and is logically organized. Multiple resources are cited to support points or provide examples or clarification when appropriate. Resources are cited in a professional style, and no more than 2 typographical or spelling errors are noted. Posts are of sufficient length to address the topic. Probably looks familiar. Many online tools are available to create such rubrics. If you're not using Blackboard or one of the more popular course management systems that might have these built in, you can take a look at online tools that are available, and as well as tools available for Microsoft Excel or Word, and online tools such as eRubric. E-portfolios are useful to document and assess student learning and development over time, so students can continue to submit different examples of projects and major assignment work, showing their learning and development over the course of their entire program, so it might be for multiple years. These collections of examples of students' work and their performance can be useful to showcase learning and skills to a potential employer after the students graduate, so they serve a dual purpose. At Youngstown State University, the College of Education utilizes TaskStream, which has built-in accreditation standards within the system. So this system allows for a collection evaluation of student-submitted materials to ensure that accrediting standards are being met. And depending on how you set it up, you can have students either pay for an individual account, or the university could purchase the accounts and allow students free access. And as with other lessons, there are some discussion activities available. You'll find these in the discussions area in our online course. Thanks for your continued participation in the course. Bye.